Behind the Red Line, Episode 9, The New Bedford Highway Killer, 1988 to 1989, Massachusetts. 9 murdered, multiple missing, killer never caught. The highway in Massachusetts had always breathed differently in the late 1980s. On cold nights, fog rolled across the asphalt like a living thing, clinging low, swallowing everything beyond a few feet. Drivers said the road felt haunted, that something watched from the tree line, that the night itself waited for mistakes. In 1988, the stretch of Route 140 between New Bedford and Freetown felt especially wrong. Locals joked that the fog had teeth. Truckers prayed silently while driving it. Teenagers dared each other to walk it at night. And women, especially the ones who worked the streets or battled addiction, were told to avoid it at all costs. Because something moved through those corridors, something patient, something cold, something hunting. And by the time anyone realized it, 9 women were gone. 2 more vanished without a trace. And Massachusetts had a phantom with a growing appetite. Tonight, we follow the fog. We follow the headlights. We follow the road that swallowed women whole. This is Behind the Red Line. Episode 9, The New Bedford Highway Killer. New Bedford, Massachusetts. In the 1980s was a place with a split personality, part quiet fishing town, part industrial maze of old textile mills, part neighborhood struggling under the weight of heroin, poverty, and survival sex work. The harbor was beautiful, but behind it was a different world. Boarded buildings, families crowded into small apartments, women who disappeared for a few nights because addiction pulled them under, then resurfaced like nothing happened. Everyone knew someone battling demons. Everyone lost someone early. It was a town where people lived close together and still felt alone. And it was a town where vulnerable women walked the streets after dark, trading minutes of safety for minutes of money. They stood under streetlights that flickered cold and pale. They waited at corners where cars slowed just enough to be dangerous. They took rides from men whose faces they didn't want to memorize. The killer watched all of it. He learned the rhythm of the streets. When the police changed shifts, when women clustered in groups, when someone drifted into a shadowed corner alone. New Bedford was small, but the killer hid inside the smallest cracks. In the spring of 1988, a woman went missing. People shrugged. It happened sometimes. Addiction tugged people in unpredictable directions. Then another woman vanished, and another. Families called the police, and some officers listened, but many didn't. They assumed these women were in detox centers, or jail, or staying with friends, or on long drug binges. Some missing person reports weren't even taken seriously enough to file. Some women were last seen hitchhiking. Some were last seen in the passenger seat of a stranger's car. Some walked into the night and never came back. New Bedford began to fill with rumors, stories of a man in a dark truck, a quiet guy who watched the girls on the strip, a repeat customer who scared people. But nothing felt urgent enough. Until summer turned deadly, late summer. The heat had broken. Humidity still clung to the air. A body was found near Route 140, hidden in brush, partially covered by leaves and debris. At first, officers hoped it was an isolated tragedy. Then another body was found, and another. All women, all with connections to the same streets, all with histories of addiction or sex work, all left near highways like the killer wanted them to be found. But not too quickly. The scenes were eerily similar. Bodies placed, not thrown, not buried like West Mesa, but arranged with deliberate distance. Each discovery felt like a message, one that no one wanted to understand. Detectives realized something terrifying. The women hadn't overdosed. They hadn't run away. They weren't missing. They were being hunted. And the killer left them along the roads as if marking territory. Their names were whispered through the town long before the media cared. Women with families who begged police to take their disappearances seriously. Women who had dreams beyond addiction. Women who deserved to grow old. They loved fiercely. They laughed loudly. They trusted too quickly. They carried trauma quietly. And they were human. They were mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, women battling battles no one else could see. Some were trying to get clean. Some were working the streets to survive. Some were staying with friends or boyfriends or in shelters. Some had nowhere left to go. But the killer knew this. He knew exactly who wouldn't be searched for right away. He picked women he believed no one cared about, and that belief came from a truth bigger than any crime scene. Society saw these women as disposable. But they weren't. They mattered. They mattered then. They matter now. They matter forever. Route 140 turned into a pattern of fear. Bodies were discovered along the edges, some close to the pavement, others deeper in the woods. Drivers started reporting strange things. Cars slowing down near the shoulder. Men standing alone by tree lines. A feeling that headlights behind them stayed too close for too long. The town began to live with a new rhythm, a rhythm shaped by dread. Women refused to walk alone. Bars emptied earlier. Some sex workers insisted on working in pairs. Others stopped working entirely. People whispered that something evil lived along the highway, that it prowled like a hungry animal once the sun went down. And they weren't wrong. Police were overwhelmed. The area was massive. The number of missing women kept rising. Bodies appeared months apart, in different conditions, in different locations. Detectives tried to connect the dots, but the dots were scattered across miles of brush, woods, and off-ramps. And in the late 1980s, technology couldn't do what it does now. No DNA databases, no surveillance everywhere, no cell phones, no digital footprints. Every dead end became another dead woman. Families grew desperate. Protests began. People demanded answers. But the killer stayed ahead of everyone, like he was studying the investigation as closely as he studied the women. He left no obvious forensic evidence, no fibers, no clear signatures, no calling cards, just bodies and fear. There were suspects, men who lived in the shadows of New Bedford. One man, a reputed drug dealer, was linked to several of the missing women. He had a history of violence. He was the last person some victims were seen with. People whispered that he bragged about hurting women. But whispers aren't evidence. Then there was the doctor, a physician rumored to have connections to women on the streets. He owned a truck similar to what witnesses described. He made people uncomfortable. He moved strangely through the community, but nothing tied him directly. No proof, just unease. Another suspect fled the state entirely and died in a car crash not long after. Some detectives believed that explained why the bodies stopped appearing. Others disagreed. They thought the killer was still alive, watching, waiting, hidden in plain sight. The truth? All suspects had pieces of darkness, but none had enough to prove guilt, and the women deserved more than guesses. Just like West Mesa, this case revealed something people didn't want to confront. These women weren't protected. Their disappearances weren't prioritized. Their families weren't believed. Their community wasn't listened to. The killer didn't just choose vulnerable victims. He chose a vulnerable system. A system where missing sex workers were brushed off. A system where addiction overshadowed humanity. A system where the same women society judged were the same women he targeted. If the same crimes happened in wealthy neighborhoods, the story would have been different. Faster, louder, clearer. But in New Bedford, the killer slipped through the cracks just as easily as the women did. Today, Route 140 looks ordinary. Cars speed by without knowing where they are. New trees have grown where bodies were once found. The fog still rolls across the asphalt on cold nights, but the land hasn't forgotten. The families haven't forgotten. The community hasn't forgotten. The ghosts of those women linger in the headlights that pass through the darkness. Their stories deserve to be spoken. Their lives deserve to be honored. And their killer deserves to be named, even if he never will be. Because somewhere, someone knows the truth. Someone remembers something small. Someone heard a confession. Someone saw a truck. Someone noticed a bruise. Someone knows what happened along that highway. And someone has lived with that secret for decades. The new Bedford Highway Killer vanished as quietly as he appeared. No arrest, no trial, no confession. Just 9 women dead, several more missing, and a town forever haunted. But the fog hasn't forgotten. The highway hasn't forgotten. And neither will we. These women mattered. Their stories matter. Their humanity matters. And their names will never again be whispered in the dark, but spoken aloud, remembered, honored, because the night may hide its secrets. But here on Behind the Red Line, we bring them back to light. This is Episode 9, The New Bedford Highway Killer.